Look, there's a goddess sleeping at the base of your spine right now, and she's been deliberately kept dormant because you're absolutely terrified of what happens when she wakes up. Not metaphorically terrified, genuinely, bone deep afraid of the power that lives inside your own body. Most people approach Kundalini awakening like they're ordering a spiritual upgrade that comes with a satisfaction guarantee. They want enhanced consciousness delivered to their current life without disrupting their comfortable routines, their familiar identity, or their predictable relationships. But here's what nobody tells you. Shakti doesn't deliver upgrades. She delivers complete demolitions, followed by total reconstruction. And your nervous system knows this, which is why she stays safely asleep while you play with meditation apps and weekend workshops. The first fear, keeping her dormant, operates at the control level. Your mind believes that thinking runs your life, that planning solves problems, that mental management maintains your identity. When Shakti rises, she demonstrates how laughably limited this mental control really is by moving energy through your system according to cosmic intelligence that makes your planning mind look like a toddler with crayons. People say they want spiritual awakening until they realize awakening means their entire mental management system becomes permanently downgraded. Most egos would rather stay unconscious than accept demotion from CEO to janitor. But there's something even deeper operating here. The fear of your own power. You've been systematically conditioned to believe you're small, limited, dependent on external circumstances for well-being and meaning. Shakti awakening demonstrates that you contain the same creative force that manifests galaxies. If you can create your reality through consciousness, then you become responsible for your reality. No more blaming genetics, childhood trauma, society, or circumstances for your experience. No more playing victim or waiting for someone else to fix your problems. When you recognize your true creative capacity, excuses become impossible to maintain. This terrifies people because victimhood provides genuine psychological benefits. The victim identity absolves you of responsibility while generating sympathy from others. Shakti awakening eliminates the victim story completely, leaving you face to face with unlimited creative potential. Here's where the cultural suppression becomes obvious. Modern civilization runs on keeping people disconnected from their source, so they become dependent on external systems for survival and meaning. A person connected to inner power doesn't make a good consumer, employee, or follower. The suppression starts in childhood through educational systems designed to disconnect you from your body and intuition. Children naturally live in their energy body. They feel everything, express spontaneously, remain connected to subtle awareness. School systematically trains this out through simple commands. Sit still. Don't move. Don't express. By the time most people finish formal education, they've been thoroughly disconnected from the energetic awareness that would naturally support Shakti awakening. They've learned to live in their heads while treating their body like an inconvenient taxi cab. Meanwhile, Shakti lies coiled at the base, waiting for conditions that allow her natural expression. But here's what makes this even more twisted. You unconsciously sabotage your own spiritual practices to avoid awakening. You choose teachers who emphasize comfort over transformation. You select practices that feel good without creating real change. The spiritual marketplace enables this avoidance by selling awakening as a pleasant experience, rather than acknowledging its disruptive nature. Yet Shakti sees through all psychological games. She knows when you're serious about awakening versus when you're playing spiritual dress-up. She responds to authentic readiness, not wishful thinking or spiritual materialism. The third major fear operates at the identity level. Your personality, everything you consider you, represents a collection of patterns, preferences, and stories accumulated over time. Shakti awakening dissolves much of this constructed identity, temporarily leaving you unsure who you are. The ego experiences this dissolution as death, even though consciousness continues unchanged. Most people identify so completely with their personality that losing these patterns feels like annihilation. They would rather remain unconscious in familiar limitation than risk the temporary disorientation that comes with breaking free from conditioned identity. They prefer the known prison to unknown freedom. Now here's where the physical preparation becomes essential. Shakti needs specific conditions to rise safely through your system. Your nervous system carries residue of every stress, trauma, and unconscious pattern you've ever experienced. These blockages create what traditions call knots in the subtle body. When powerful energy tries to rise through a system full of knots, chaos results rather than transformation. Most people want the mystical experience without foundational cleaning. They want divine union while remaining unconscious of their own emotional patterns. They want cosmic consciousness while breathing like they're afraid of life itself. Shallow, restricted, barely letting energy enter their body. Shakti needs deep, rhythmic breathing to have enough life force to rise through the central channel. When you breathe fully, you create space for energy to move. When you breathe shallowly, you create compression. A compressed system cannot support the kind of energetic awakening that Shakti represents. Your spine becomes the pathway for this rising energy. But most people have spinal compression from years of poor posture and energetic blockages. They treat their spine like structural support instead of recognizing this pathway for consciousness itself. Here's the ultimate paradox that confuses everyone. The more you try to awaken Shakti, the more she resists. Why? Because trying comes from the mind, and she responds to surrender. The mind wants to control the process, but awakening happens when you stop controlling and start allowing. This creates a fascinating double bind that keeps most people stuck in mental effort rather than energetic flow. The deepest fear might be the fear of love itself. True awakening opens your heart to universal compassion that includes all beings without exception. This means feeling the suffering of others as clearly as their joy. Most people protect themselves from too much love because unlimited compassion feels dangerous to a system designed for self-protection. But here's the ultimate irony. All these fears that keep Shakti dormant also create the very suffering people hope awakening will eliminate. Fear of power keeps you powerless. Fear of change keeps you stuck. Fear of responsibility keeps you victim to circumstances. Fear of love keeps you isolated and defended. Shakti waits patiently while you work through these fears at your own pace. She doesn't force awakening on anyone unprepared to handle the transformation. But she also doesn't respond to half-hearted spiritual seeking or attempts to bargain for partial awakening. When you become genuinely tired of living in fear-based limitation, when you're willing to face whatever changes awakening might bring, when you're ready to trade familiar suffering for unknown freedom, that's when she begins to stir. The goddess in your spine knows exactly when you're ready. Your task becomes creating the conditions that support her natural awakening, rather than trying to force something that cannot be forced. This means addressing the fears, clearing the blockages, and developing the capacity to handle tremendous creative power flowing through your system. The question becomes, will you continue participating in your own suppression, or will you create the inner environment that allows her natural expression? She's been waiting patiently through your entire lifetime. The choice remains entirely yours, but the cultural pressure to stay unconscious has never been stronger, which means the need for conscious awakening has never been more urgent.